The docking ring shuddered once, twice, then settled into a tired hum that sounded like an old machine pretending it still enjoyed working. I was leaning against a crate that very clearly did not belong to me, trying to look like someone with purpose, when she spoke. "You are standing on a restricted conduit," she said, her translator smoothing the words into polite accusation. I glanced down at my boots, then at the glowing warning stripe beneath them. "In my defense," I said, "it wasn't glowing when I stepped there. It lit up out of spite." She watched me for a moment, eyes steady, unreadable, then tilted her head slightly. Her ears, longer than human, tapering elegantly back, shifted with emotion, as if listening to something more than my voice. "The station does not experience spite," she replied. "It experiences maintenance failures." I said. "Then we're emotionally compatible." That earned a pause long enough for me to worry I'd insulted her culture, her ancestors, or possibly her ears. Then, to my surprise, the corner of her mouth lifted. Not a laugh exactly. More like an acknowledgement that humor had been detected and filed for later analysis. We were both waiting for the same transit clearance, which in deep space terms meant we were trapped together until the station's ancient systems decided to forgive us. Around us, ships murmured, translators chirped, and a sanitation drone rolled past, humming something suspiciously melodic. She stood with the kind of stillness that suggested discipline rather than stiffness. Up close, aside from the ears, she looked almost human, which I knew was the most dangerous kind of almost. "You are human," she said. "I've been accused," I replied. "Repeatedly." "I am Luri," she said, "of the viral compact." I nodded as if that clarified everything. "I'm not of a compact, more of a loose federation of bad decisions." Another pause, then that is humor again. "Good catch." A warning klaxon sounded briefly overhead, then cut off in embarrassment. The lights dimmed, flared, and returned to normal. Luri's hand moved not toward a weapon but toward a small device at her wrist, fingers brushing it with practiced ease. "Minor gravitational desync," she said calmly. "It will pass." "I was hoping you'd say that," I said. "The last time someone didn't, I woke up 3 decks lower with a concussion and a strong opinion about railings." She glanced at me, ears shifting again. "You are injured often." "Only when I'm awake." Time stretched. Silence threatened. I did what I always did in silence. I filled it recklessly. "So," I said, gesturing vaguely at her, "if this were a different situation, say less malfunctioning station, fewer alarms, I'd say you'd make a stunning wife." The words left my mouth fully formed and completely unfiltered. I regretted them immediately, bracing for offense, outrage, or a lesson in alien social boundaries that would end with me apologizing to a tribunal. Instead, she smiled. "I agree," she said. "The universe did something subtle then, like holding its breath." I straightened. "You agree with which part, the hypothetical, the stunning?" "Because I should clarify that humans say things like that as jokes. Social lubrication. Verbal nonsense to keep panic from setting in." Her smile didn't fade. If anything, it sharpened, becoming intent. "Your tone indicated levity," she said. "Your words indicated intent. In my culture, intent expressed under shared vulnerability is binding." "Shared vulnerability," I echoed weakly. Another tremor ran through the deck, just enough to underline her point. "Right, that kind." "You offered," she continued, matter of fact, "and I accepted." I laughed because that's what I do when reality veers sharply away from expectations. "Wow. Okay, no offense, but that escalated faster than a jump drive with trust issues." Her gaze stayed on me, steady, patient. "Is this not acceptable?" "I didn't say that," I said quickly. Usually when I joke, the universe doesn't take notes." Around us, the docking ring lights steadied. Somewhere, a clearance chime sounded, blissfully indifferent to my existential crisis. Luri remained where she was, close enough now that I could see the faint shimmer of circuitry woven into her collar, pulsing softly in time with the station. "You may withdraw the offer," she said, "but understand that words alter trajectories." I swallowed. Humor rose to my lips again, reflexive, defensive. You know, I said, back home, this is how people end up married for 30 years. One bad joke and no exit ramp. Her ears tilted forward, attentive. Then your people value durability. I snorted despite myself. We value survival, same thing, different branding. She studied me as if measuring something invisible. The clearance light turned green. I should have walked away, I knew that. Instead, I stayed where I was, looking at an alien woman who had just accepted a joke as fate, wondering when exactly my life had decided to become interesting. The universe, it seemed, had been taking notes after all. The transit car sealed itself with a sound like a decision being finalized without my input. I stood a little too stiffly beside Lurie, hands folded as if good posture might undo whatever I had accidentally agreed to. The car lurched forward, artificial gravity hiccuped, then stabilized with the smug confidence of a system that enjoyed watching organic life panic. This is the part, I said, where one of us explains what just happened. I have already explained, Lurie replied. Yes, but from your perspective, I said. I was hoping for the version where I'm not spiritually engaged. She considered that. The car slid through the station's inner ring, passing security fields that shimmered briefly as we crossed them. Your discomfort suggests you did not anticipate acceptance. I rarely anticipate consequences. That is consistent with your species' data. I winced, ouch fair. We reached a junction and the car slowed, hesitated, then rerouted itself with a cheerful chime. Lurie glanced at the display. Administrative delay. We will have additional time. Of course we will, I muttered. The universe heard me thinking this can't get more awkward and took it personally. She turned to face me fully now. You are attempting to deflect, she said, with humor. Deflect, cushion, survive. It's a multi-tool. In my culture, she said, humor is reserved for intimacy or mourning. I blinked. Those are very different situations. They often coexist. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Okay, so, let's rewind. When I said what I said, I meant you are aesthetically impressive and I am uncomfortable and joking. What did you hear? I heard an offer of bond, she said, spoken freely, without coercion. During a moment when both of us were subject to station instability. I laughed weakly. You really don't let anything go, do you? No, she said simply. We let things continue. The car jolted again, lights flickering. A soft voice announced a temporary systems recalibration. Lurie's wrist device pulsed, projecting a faint lattice of symbols between us. This will clarify, she said. I'm afraid to ask what this is. A preliminary alignment scan, she said, non-invasive. Those are the famous last words of every invasive procedure. She didn't smile this time, but there was warmth in her eyes. The lattice shifted, symbols flowing, reacting to something I couldn't feel. My implant buzzed, translator scrambling. You are remarkably compatible, she said, sounding faintly surprised. With what? I asked. Poor judgment. With me. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Lurie, I don't even know what you do, or who you are, or if you're secretly royalty, which, statistically, is how this kind of thing goes. She hesitated, just a fraction. Enough to be noticed. Your humor functions as inquiry, she said carefully. That's a yes, isn't it? It is complicated. I rubbed my face. Of course it is. Listen, I'm not rejecting you. I'm just trying to avoid accidentally triggering an interstellar incident, because I flirted badly. Your concern is noted, she said. However, the incident has already begun. The car slowed again, then stopped entirely. The voice returned, apologetic. Lurie looked at the sealed doors, then back at me. There will be observers soon, she said. Observers, I repeated. Like witnesses, officials, people with uniforms that mean I should stop talking. Yes. I sighed. I knew I should have just complimented your ears. She tilted her head. You may still. They're very elegant, I said. Expressive, honestly doing half the emotional labor right now. That finally earned a laugh, a real one. Soft, brief, and unmistakably genuine. "Your anxiety is endearing," she said. "Careful," I replied. "That's how this started." The doors remained closed. Somewhere beyond them, footsteps approached. Lurie stood closer now, not touching but present in a way that felt intentional. "You spoke without foresight," she said, "but not without truth." I looked at her, at the calm certainty in her expression, and felt the ground shift under me again. No alarms this time. "Yeah," I said quietly, "that's the scary part, isn't it?" She smiled, ears angling forward as the footsteps stopped just outside. The doors opened with a sigh that sounded relieved to be included at last. 3 figures waited outside, their implants glowing with official restraint. I recognized the posture immediately, people whose job involved consequences. Lurie stepped forward before I could say anything regrettable. "The bond has been acknowledged," she said. "Clarification is pending." One of them looked at me. "You are the human party." "I am," I said. "I'd like to state for the record that I usually trip into fewer galactic obligations before breakfast." There was a flicker of confusion, then a note added to someone's display. We were escorted gently but firmly into a chamber that hummed with quiet authority. Fields shimmered. Protocols woke up. My implant buzzed like it was reconsidering its career. "You may rescind," the lead official said to me, "under human law." "And under hers?" I asked. Lurie met my eyes. "Rescission is permitted," she said, "but it leaves an absence." "That sounds ominous," I said. "It is culturally impolite," she clarified. I rubbed the back of my neck. Humor rose, familiar and comforting, then stalled. For once it felt insufficient. "When I make jokes," I said slowly, "it's usually because I'm afraid of meaning something." Her ears shifted, attentive. The officials waited. "I didn't think about what words do," I continued. "I use them like shields, noise." But somewhere along the way, I stopped hiding behind them. I looked at her. "You heard me seriously before I did." Silence followed, thick but not hostile. The lead official nodded. "Then state your intent." I took a breath. "I don't know where this leads. I don't know your customs or your politics or what kind of disaster I might be stepping into." A smile tugged at my mouth despite everything. "But I know I don't want to walk away pretending it was nothing." Lurie's smile was softer this time. "Intent confirmed." Fields shifted. The chamber relaxed. One official sighed, almost human. "The bond will proceed under provisional status," they said. "Cross-compact." "As in trial period?" I asked. "Yes." I exhaled. "Great, I excel at probation." Later, time had blurred into something negotiable. We stood alone again near the observation ring. Ships drifted beyond, indifferent and endless. "You could have withdrawn," Lurie said. "I know," I replied. "I still might make terrible jokes." "That is expected." I chuckled. "You know, I started this trying to survive space by not taking anything seriously. And now I'm taking one thing seriously," I said. "Which is new, terrifying, possibly character growth." Her laugh was warm. "Growth is rarely comfortable." I looked at her, really looked this time, without deflection. "So," I said, "stunning wife was premature, but I'd like to learn what comes next." She stepped closer, not touching but certain. "So would I." The station hummed on. Somewhere systems recalibrated. Words, once careless, settled into place. And for the first time I didn't joke to